All right, CvCISO podcast listeners, welcome to episode, I think 15, maybe 16. Hopefully you're counting. I'm not. Joining us as usual, Meg and Nadraj. Jordan, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Happy Friday.
Good Friday.
Happy Friday. Jordan, it's your show this week, and we've got some special guests joining us. Would you like to introduce them?
I would love to introduce them. This show, what we're going to be talking about, a couple topics. We want to, it's going to be kind of a mailbag show. We haven't done an actual mailbag in a while, but we're going to be talking about something that was brought up in the community about entering the vCISO world when you're coming from more of an IT position, and maybe some of these things aren't you don't have experience in, and so we have a couple guests here. We've got Jim Huffman and Dan Ovick, and I'd like you guys to quickly introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, what you're doing, and then we'll move on. Dan,
And maybe what kind of cologne you wear.
what?
I don't know, maybe what kind of cologne you wear.
I'll
Well,
be right back. I'm gonna have to go and double check that real quick.
I know Jim's is kind of has kind of a timber scent
Timber
to it.
musky smell, if I can recall.
Yeah.
Dan's is a little bit more like citrusy.
Yeah.
Wow, you actually know this, Jordan.
Well, we were stuck in my conference room for a few hours for the local vCISO
Gosh.
chapter.
Is that why you were trying to sit so close to everybody?
I need to smell those smells.
Have you listened to this podcast? I mean, that's part of what we do is evaluate
I think we
cologne.
just
Like
revealed something unknowingly.
The cat is out of the bag.
it says a lot about your vCISO work, how you smell.
Oh, really?
What if you
That's
can't
a-
smell since COVID?
How did I make a dime? All right, Dan, who are you?
So Dan Ovick, I work for a larger healthcare organization here in the Twin Cities area. I specialize primarily in the security GRC world as well as vulnerability management. I went through the CvCISO program a little over a year ago now, and then have just been involved in the community since then, and also been working on setting up the Minnesota local chapter.
Right on. Which we'll touch on a quick update on that here after the intros.
All right. Well,
Jim,
I'm Jim
you're up.
Huffman. Yeah, I'm Jim Huffman. I work in Arcadia, Wisconsin for a rural electric cooperative. I'm the director of information technology here. And I took the vCISO course to get, I just felt like the right thing to do, I guess. I needed some more security. We didn't have, a real good security posture here. So, and I've always been interested in it. And it's kind of changed my whole direction, I guess you could say. So I really think it's been super helpful here.
Cool. Well, that's why you're here, Jim, because we have other people like you that are mainly focused in the IT world. They're a level 1 CvCISO, so they can't necessarily go out there doing this work because it requires mentorship, and they just want ideas of what do you do when you're not an MSP but you still have interest in the InfoSec world.
Yeah, this is a great topic, I think. And I know, like at the local chapter, Jim shared some of his story there, and I truly I'm kind of fascinated by it. He's such a humble guy, and but diving into this world, and seeing like this new found passion for it, I think is really, really interesting. But speaking of the local chapter, so Dan is kind of the acting president of the local chapter right now, and I think we just kind of have temporary roles at this point to launch this. But Dan, you want to chat a little bit about how far we've come and kind of the idea behind this local chapter?
Senor Presidente.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's the official title there. I like it. Mm-hmm. So back in May, I think it was, we had the inaugural CvCISO conference, and there we kind of launched the officially, right, the local chapter concept starting in Minnesota. And then a month later, we were able to do our first local chapter meeting here in Minnesota. Jordan was kind enough to offer his office and conference room to host that. And so it was awesome. We had a great time just being able to chat kind of what's going on in the world, what's going on in cybersecurity, some of the areas that we would like to learn more about through the local chapter, and who would be willing to present on some of those topics. So we got another one coming up next week, I believe. Next Wednesday, we're going to be meeting again as a local chapter, and it's been great. Last week, or last month, I should say, we had, I think it was 12 people that joined, somewhere in there. And it's looking to be close to that again this time next week as well. So we're going to continue growing that, and then ultimately kind of have this be the template for future local chapters across the United States, and who knows, maybe even around the world as well.
I want to say, a huge thank you for you guys for taking the initiative. This is what community is all about. You guys saw this opportunity, took this opportunity. Meg, you've got this vision as well. Working together, it's amazing, because one of the things I really want to do is not be people who know me, and the community. This needs to be a community thing. The community needs to own this. The community needs to refine it, define it. You just start. That's what I do a lot. Is just start something, and then people like you see the opportunity to help people, and you run with it, man. So I'm super thrilled. If people want to become are interested in that local community, how would they get in touch? Where would they go?
To get involved with the community as far as the CvCISO or as far as the local chapter?
I think the local chapter.
So as of right now, we're kind of in a pilot mode right now. We've been having it just folks that have gone through the CvCISO program. Anybody that's gone through the program then can reach out to myself, Jordan, Jim, Meg, and get in touch if you're in the local Minnesota area and would like to get more involved with that. And we've been chatting about how we want to continue moving forward as far as people bringing guests or others coming up into the meetings as well, and kind of what that looks like. But right now we're just piloting it out. Right? What is the format of the meetings going to look like? How are we going to what are we going to do as far as speakers, topics, structure, and all of that stuff?
I love it. I love it, because when you talk about transition, going from, especially somebody who's new in this industry, or somebody transitioning, I think the biggest thing we can offer them, and we've all got stuff to do, so it's not like you have a lot of free time, but it's support. Whether it's
100%.
support that comes from the community, whether it be the CvCISO community, the local chapter, or a one-on-one relationship with a mentor, that's super, super important. And I just express my gratitude for what it means to the community. My mission is to fix the broken industry and find things that are broken, and then go out, and you could create solutions, but then you need people to implement the solution. And you guys are playing a critical role on that. So again, thanks, man. It's awesome.
Yep. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. The pretty much unanimously the feedback when we were discussing it on the first meeting was, that it is more. We used the word intimate, but that might not be the best word. But it's more like you do get involved. You do form these relationships with people where you're willing to share best practices, share templates, processes, and really care about each other's businesses or careers or whatever they're doing to grow. And I think that's what is exciting everyone, is that it's not meant to be just this meeting that you show up to just to chat and just watch a video of some thing. It's meant to be actually getting involved, which means they'll probably be a little bit smaller, but this is all pretty new. It's just we're checking in on a lot of things, and I think exciting where it would go.
Yeah, there's a guy a couple weeks ago, because I wish I could mentor everybody. Honestly, I do enjoy it. It's I don't like meetings, but those kind of meetings I do enjoy, because you get to know people, and I think intimate is the right word, because there was a guy who broke it down like intimate. Like if you break it down, like intimacy is into me see, kind of weird, which is awesome
Yeah.
because what that means is like you're being transparent, you're being honest, right? And one of the things this industry doesn't have enough of is enough places like that where you can just be yourself. Like if you don't understand something, that's okay. Shit, there's a billion things I don't understand, and having those because I think to get over a lot of the humps, there's a lot of intimidation. It's
Hmm.
intimidating. You know, you talk. I was told yesterday by, weird people like me are belong to these like hacker groups and shit and whatever. And one of them, they were talking about something, and I just saw my name come up, and it said. And they said, I think they think the scariest one, or this person says the scariest one among us is Evan. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So then it got me thinking, like, do I come off like that? Because I guess in one way you kind of want to, but in another way, like if it turns people off and they feel like they can't come up to you and approach you, like I'm part of the problem, in
I
that.
mean, if you could calm down right now, because you're kind of scaring me. Uh,
Yeah, those
all right,
still
all right.
I'm gonna
those
tell you
still
right now,
still
Jordan.
there.
If you don't get your shit together,
I'm
wait, no,
scared.
not. Don't be
No,
scared. You
but
know me.
Evan, I do think you had a really good point because from my perspective as one of those newbies that jumps into an industry that is filled with a lot of very intelligent people that are very well versed and experienced in this world, it's intimidating to not know and not understand and to have to ask questions that I was one of those people growing up where I was so, you know, keen on looking intelligent that I was afraid to ask questions because I was afraid that it would make me look stupid. And then somewhere in my journey, I got rid of that and just said, if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask the question. I don't care how dumb it makes me look, because the only way for me to learn and to grow is to ask the questions. And I think we need more of that in this industry because there's way too many people that just they won't be vulnerable like that.
Hmm.
Well, and so much of what we do too in this industry is facade. We use uh, new acronyms every damn day. We talk about what sounds like really sophisticated things and technologies and like a different language, which it is a different language. And some of us, I mean, I think the ones that are probably the most experienced steer away from that because they understand who the audience is. Like, it doesn't serve you, whoever I'm talking to, it doesn't serve any purpose for me to get deep into some technical discussion about something. But where we use it as a facade a lot is to cover the fact that I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Right? I'll talk AI. I'll talk blockchain. Whatever, quantum, and it makes me sound good, right? And so people are put you up on this pedestal because we posture a lot, right? Oh gosh, you must be really experienced because you
Oh
sound
my
really
God.
smart. When in reality, most of us, I mean, if I were to guess, there's no study, but if I were to guess, I'd say like 80% of us don't know what the hell we're talking about. I mean, call it what it is, right? But it's intimidating to people that want to get into this industry because I've seen lots of mentors too that they mentor from this position of power. Like, well, of course I'll mentor you. You know, I did this, I did that. No, that's not how you mentor. How you mentor is you pour into somebody else. It doesn't matter what the hell I did. And so there was a guy, and I'll give him a shout out. His name's, no, I'm not going to give him a shout out because I don't know if he wants me to, but he's from the state of Missouri.
Fuck.
And he was talking about wanting to take this course. He's very motivated, just but new to the industry, and I think um, he's in this game for the right reasons. He wants to help people, he wants to serve people, and everything. And said, "Tell me about the. I don't want to just take another course. I want some mentorship." And as we were talking, I'm like, I kind of like this guy. I could hang out with him a little bit. And so I said, you have to be patient with me, but I'll be your mentor. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. So then we started the conversation, like, why do you want me to mentor you anyway? What do you know about me? And so he outlined a whole bunch of shit. I was like, damn, you actually studied me. It's weird because I don't share that stuff. But we're going to enter in this relationship. And that's what a mentorship is. It's a relationship where we're just going to talk. You know what I mean? I'm not going to impart any wisdom unless there's an opportunity to impart some wisdom. But I'm also going to learn, what it's like to walk in his shoes. I started in this industry in 91, 92. Lots of things have changed since then. I don't know what it's like to get into the industry today. It's different. And so I think a good mentor can, just like a good vCISO or a good CISO, you have to be able to put things into perspective. So the community you guys are doing, I think, is amazing. Then I'll shut up here in a minute. The community, amazing. I'm so grateful that you guys are pouring into this because it's going to pay dividends. I don't know how it pays dividends. It may pay dividends in furthering your own career. It may pay dividends in helping somebody out get a new job. I mean, even if one person got a new career out of this, it's sort of worth it.
Yeah, you never quite know the dividends until you look back, and then you realize, oh man, that was kind of a pivotal thing. The other interesting thing that came from the local chapter meeting so far is I thought it was interesting that at least a handful of people admitted in that meeting that they are introverts, and like just coming to this meeting was a big step, you know, and I mean, how true is that? I think there's probably going to be a lot of folks that fall into that category here, where like you're kind of taking this step out of your comfort zone. And that was kind of another eye-opening thing for me, that these local chapters need to be welcoming enough that it's not, these people are taking this risk, this step that goes against, what they actually want to do, and to make those environments welcoming so that they're like, okay, because once you get to know people, like the introverts aren't necessarily just shy. I mean, like, and never want to do anything. Like once you get comfortable in a place, suddenly introverts, you know, come out of their shell
Well,
and it,
I think people think that introverts mean that you don't have good people skills.
right.
That's not what an introvert is. You can measure an introvert by, do they get energized or tired out by people?
Yeah.
I get tired out by people. I'm definitely an introvert. And I think, but I ask most people, or most people think I'm an extrovert.
Right.
Yeah, my
Oh man,
wife's a great example
go
of
take a
that.
nap after this. James, you're back.
Yep, I switched devices.
All right. I'm
What
gonna
were you
shut
going to
up now
say?
and let you guys talk. I want to hear Dan and James and their perspective. So I'm gonna shut up.
Well, I think one. Oh my gosh! So the reason we wanted both of you guys here was because the question that was posed, or the I don't know if it's a concern, but just what was posed was some
Hold on,
people.
we got to do the mailbag. Mailbag.
Okay,
Mailbag.
gotcha.
All right. All right,
Um,
Meg, pull the mailbag out and read the question.
yeah. So what was posed was that some people come through the CvCISO program. They're not an MSP. They're currently working in an IT role, and kind of how does one in that position then gain the experience to kind of move into that InfoSec world versus the IT world? And I know myself that I was a security analyst prior to coming to Security Studio, and that was exactly my world. I was actually a security analyst, so I guess I was technically in the InfoSec world, um, but I had to get experience doing the work on the job. And my mentorship came through my job, not through the CvCISO program. So it'd be really interesting to hear from Dan and James about, how you've been able to apply some of the concepts and gain experience as an information security practitioner, since joining the program, or even prior to that, not even related to the program, but just how do you go about doing that, making that shift?
You want to go ahead, Jim?
Sure. So for me, the utilizing the tools and techniques and mindset, right, that a CvCISO would need, um, is kind of a natural fit, because if you don't already have a active program, then, and I would be the hurdle if someone came in, right? So I can eliminate that right away just by being that person. So we were able to immediately start using, risk assessments and vendor management policies, right? Or how we look at them, compliance. We don't we don't personally have to have any compliance, but you still want to, you know, a lot of those compliance things are necessary, right? Even if you don't have to be compliant. So that's what I'm saying. Um, but learning, just understanding that they exist, understanding how to get there, um, using the CIA triad has been huge here, because not only do you want your information to be secure and confidential, but you want it to be available. And uh, people often look at security like, well, you're just going to make it harder to get. You're just going to get in the way. You're just going to, it's a pain in the butt. Nobody wants it. And that couldn't be further from true, because the more we do, I think the easier it has been for people to find the information they need on time, and appropriate information, and quickly. And that has been huge for our company. Just finding a way of streamlining all that while making it more secure. Data classification, who needs rights to what, all those kind of things. So I'm getting tons of practical experience in the policy, the management, communication, who to bring together. I can see firsthand the people that you need to contact, right? Um, if I had zero experience and I was just calling companies saying, "Hey, I'm a VCSO and I'm ready to take on this task," and they're like, "Okay, we'll give you a shot." And if you have zero experience, you don't know that you need to talk to HR, you need to talk to operations, you need to talk to the CEO, you need to talk to the IT crew. Being in the middle of that really helps me do that. So if that
Yeah.
And
answers the question.
you, if I recall, I mean, you've done a handful of assessments at this point, right?
Yeah. So I've
And
talked. Yeah, I some of our neighboring cooperatives. Um, I said, "Hey guys, I got this great tool, and it's really going to help you out." So we've given them core assessments, and I think that they're all going to be on board here pretty soon. Just because they see the value. Sometimes like you have to do X, Y, Z, but until someone actually asks you the question, "Do you do this?" Well, not really. Why don't you? Well, because whatever. That is so helpful just to have it pointed out by somebody else, because no man's a prophet in his own kingdom.
Yeah.
So it's really nice when someone else can come in and tell you what you already know, give you a piece of paper, take it to your board, and get these things implemented. So yes, Jordan, I've done
have you
four of
found
them.
that you enjoy that type of work? Like that's been kind of like doing that, maybe versus your IT stuff that you've been doing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate side effect that I'm finding. And I say unfortunate because I love my job. Monday's my favorite day of the week. That's no lie. It drives people nuts. But I love coming to work and impacting people and doing things. And since I've been doing these assessments and helping people out, I find that I love doing this. So to answer your question, it's hard for me to do my regular job now, because I would rather for some stupid reason that I can't understand. I would rather sit and read through policy and adjust it and modify it than I would set up a domain computer or fix a Active Directory issue. Ugh.
Mhm. I saw a little smile on Dan's face. Is that resonating with you?
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, I would say a lot of what Jim talked about. It for me, it's really just taking a moment to step back and assess any sort of situation, right? Especially in like vulnerability management, for example. You get let's say a critical vulnerability, right? That comes into the environment. A lot of people may just be like, okay, we need to remediate it right away, right? We need to disrupt the process. We need to disrupt the workflow, everything else to make sure we get this remediated. Well, a vulnerability is just risk, right? And you should assess risk of vulnerabilities like you assess any other risk. And so it's keeping the business in mind. I work for healthcare, right? What's the number one goal of healthcare organization? It is to take care of our patients. And so if I am going and saying, no, we need to take down a whole bunch of servers to remediate a vulnerability, right? Well, that's going to negatively impact patient care. And then after we do that, come to find out, well, maybe further down the line, we had a mitigating control on the firewall that blocks that port or whatever, right? And so it's just making sure what this course, what having these conversations with folks, what it has allowed me to do is learn how to take that step back first before trying to solve a problem, instead of having the blinders on and focusing on the cybersecurity issue, taking a step back and saying, okay, this is the business I'm in, this is the issue. How quickly do we need to address this? Can it get addressed via a normal, maybe 30 days, 45 days? Does it need to get addressed tomorrow? What's the impact going to be? Maybe it's a critical vulnerability and updating it won't impact anything, right? Maybe you just need to uninstall an application that shouldn't have been there in the first place. So it's taking that few minutes to just assess the risk, and before jumping into it, right, and sounding a bunch of alarms or raising a flare or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Dan,
go ahead, Jordan.
I was just going to ask Dan if now, do you see yourself wanting to do more vCISO things, or are you wanting to take these practices into your current career?
I would love to go through the vCISO role. I mean, I'm only been in the industry for a few years, and so kind of my thought is I want to get a little bit more experience under my belt because to me, being a vCISO, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. You are consulting a business and telling them how to configure, how to set up their operations from a cybersecurity IT standpoint. At least that's my understanding of it. I've never been in the industry of being a vCISO, so that's a misconception on my part. But I want to make sure that, okay, yeah, and I just want to make sure that I will never have all the answers, right? But just making sure, like last year to this year, I would say a lot of ground was gained in me just not just jumping in and focusing on the one little IT issue, right? I mean, if I was a vCISO and doing that, you could get obsessed over one little issue and completely lose sight of the big picture of the organization as a whole. And so just continuing to grow in some of those areas, I've just like one thing that I've done to help myself grow to be a vCISO is because, again, I kind of going back to the original question of I'm not a vCISO yet. I've only had a few years of experience, how to prepare for the role of being a vCISO. I've taken opportunities that have come up in my organization to start presenting. I specifically work in vulnerability management, right? But just presenting anything to the rest of the organization, the rest of IT, to leaders to help them understand the value of, so let's say, just vulnerability management, right? But it could be incident response, it could be engineering, it could be anything else, right? The value that can be gained by following these processes and just working together ultimately, right? I mean, if it's kind of the ongoing joke that I have with a lot of the IT teams is you don't want me to just go and fix all the vulnerabilities on your servers, because my goal in my position is to get the number down to zero. I mean, it's impossible, but that would be the point of my job, right? Is to get the number of vulnerabilities down. Well, if that's my sole purpose, I'm losing sight of everything else, which IT is basically based off of availability, right? And so now I am impacting their metrics. I'm impacting availability for the IT team. So instead of just trying to facilitate a culture where we can work together, right? How can my job, my role benefit your role, and how can your role benefit mine? And we can work together in that aspect.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways I've been trying to like grow to be a future VC. So hopefully.
I also think that when you're a level one, I know what happened for me was going through the training, because I was in, I took the class as well and became a certified VC. So what happened for me was the class was prompting a lot of questions for me. So I'd learn something, and then I'd be able to go back to my job and ask the right questions to really dive in a little bit deeper. So for those that are in that IT realm, and that's what they're doing on their day-to-day job, it doesn't mean that you can't start asking some of the right questions. And that not only helps on the IT side, but it helps on the InfoSec side. And if there's not a whole lot going on in the InfoSec side of things, then it gets the organization thinking about what are we missing here.
Yep.
So that's what I found happening for me. I'd learn something in class, then I'd go to a meeting at work and I'd be able to say, hey, have we thought about X, Y, or Z?
Well, that goes to that old adage: you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes, they ask, you have any questions? Well, I don't know what to ask, and that's where you're 100% right about that. Uh, in getting the VCISO certification or the CvCISO certification, you learn so many things that you didn't even realize were a thing. And again, that's helped me in my role as the director of IT, because we look at things so differently now, because we know the questions to ask when we're doing a contract with a vendor. We know the questions to ask now, or at least we have a better idea. I don't know everything, I'm still learning, but you can talk the talk a lot better, and
Mm-hmm.
ensure that your vendors are taking steps to mitigate issues before they breach your door.
Right.
And that's the ongoing benefit of the community as well, to continue. And I mean, the local chapter that we've talked about too is to continue to have those conversations. The way that I look at it, right? And I know Evan's been going through and revamping the courses, which is great. The course is a point in time learning point, right? But then what's really beneficial in the whole CvCISO program as a whole is this continued collaboration that we can all have across the different industries. We have people that are from MSPs. We have other people that are in IT director roles that work for county, healthcare, banking. I mean, there's a wide gamut of
Schools.
knowledge and experience and everything else out there that we can continue. We all look at we can be posed with the same problem, but we'll have many different perspectives on it, right? And
Yeah.
can find the best way to solve the problem for whatever situation we may be in.
I mean, one of the great examples, I think, of this whole concept is the education agencies out in Iowa. They're a small handful of them went through the course probably about a year ago now, and they were all IT people, but they had schools in their state that were getting breached, and there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge in what to do. So then the education, and if you aren't familiar, education agencies, they support different districts for different functions. When a district doesn't have enough money or resources to pay for their own IT person, to pay for their own speech pathologist, whatever it is, then they can go to these education agencies. So then the education agency became kind of this hub of resources to be able to go in and help and support. So, that's a really good example of IT people that have taken the class that have now kind of added to their repertoire of services to be able to go and help others.
It's awesome.
I think you brought up a good point too, James. You guys both kind of touched on it with the the idea of availability. And how that, when you think about that, that is something that is enabling to the business. Like that is like you're basically saying, I want you to have access to the resources available, and nothing nothing kind of puts the stamp on that more than like the CrowdStrike thing that just happened. It's like that wasn't, and I think Evan even called out the CEO on that a bit on LinkedIn about how it wasn't a security incident. Don't worry, or whatever it was, and but it was like, yeah, it absolutely is a security incident because things weren't available. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't a malicious, virus or something, an attacker like you would think of, a hacker. But you didn't do some sort of a security, best practice that now things aren't available, and that breaches.
Well, it might as
Oh, hi,
well
Evan.
have been an attack. It might as well have been a virus. It would have been.
Might as
I
well.
heard somebody say it would have been better off if it was ransomware, because you could have just paid the ransom and been done with it.
Well, it's like it's like a live fire exercise. You have friendly fire, and you get. I mean, the outcome's the same. People suffered because somebody did something or allowed something to happen that shouldn't have happened. And that's a whole nother topic because we're in this place where people don't realize, what their exposure is. And I think something like this, an event like this, is like, oh my God, a single file, can take down 8.5 million Windows machines and cause this much havoc. Yeah, it will. The sad thing is, because we've seen this, I mean, we've been around long enough to know that we've seen this happen, not like this, but similar things. And so you have to question who's going to be held accountable for this. Somebody's going to have to pay for it. It costs, estimates, I don't know, 15 billion, maybe 20 billion, who knows, right? Just throw a number out there. Somebody has to pay for it. And the sad thing is, what we've done traditionally is society pays for it. And so what that means just for that is your fees go up. You pay a little bit more. These are for-profit companies. They're not in business to lose money. So everybody's going to end up picking up the slack for an error that somebody made, as opposed to, the person who made the error should probably pay for it. And so when you talk about crimes against society, now you start talking criminal, right? If you go back to the law things that we talked about when you got civil law and criminal law, if society is the victim, that's criminal. So it'll be interesting to see how all this rolls out. I don't think it's going to go that way. I think there's enough power and bullshit happening, on Capitol Hill that nobody's going to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway, I heard my name and I heard CrowdStrike. I'm like, yeah, that's fucked.
Yeah, that's the topic. We kind of said the CvCISO Minnesota local chapter is going to have that as a topic to kind of discuss this next Wednesday. So,
And when
Yeah.
is that? On Wednesday, Jordan?
yep, the 31st,
The 31st at what time?
5:00.
5
This
o'clock.
one we're going to have some folks attend virtually because people can't always do it in person.
Okay.
And so we try to urge people to do. We're going to try to urge people to do at least one a quarter in person, but
Yeah.
If you want to invite me, Jordan, you can. If you don't, no offense.
you might
Sometimes I'm
get an
more
invite here.
Sometimes I'm more disruptive than I am helpful.
What?
It's true. Blame the energy drinks. Blame the Ritalin. I don't know. It's got to be something.
Well, that was good. Do you think we answered the mailbag question?
I think so. Does anybody have any last comments they want to make or anything you really had on your heart to say that you weren't able to say? Jim, Dan?
Just maybe piggybacking on the CrowdStrike incident is to just remember that cybersecurity focuses on the CIA triad, right? And one of those pieces is availability, and just making sure that we keep that in mind, doing things like, keeping BCDR, business continuity and disaster recovery in mind as well. Again, we can kind of get focused in on confidentiality or integrity and then lose focus on availability. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I have from the CrowdStrike incident is, again, just as a cybersecurity analyst working in a healthcare organization, is just to make sure that that is also prioritized in whatever it is. It could be vulnerability management, it can be third-party risk management, it could be engineering, any aspect of it, right? That is just as important as the other two pieces, confidentiality and integrity.
Well, that's where your risk tolerance comes in. I tell people here all the time, we can make everything here 100% secure. I can do it in 5 minutes.
Pull the power plug.
Pull the power plug.
Right?
That's all I got to do. Shut it all down. But then you lose availability, and then it's not useful. So we have to find that happy medium. Where does it work, and what's our tolerance? So
Yeah.
I think my final note is, if you're new to this industry and you're in the game for the right reasons, it's your career, right? Take ownership of your career. Ask difficult questions. If things don't make sense, find the right resources. You have to take the initiative. Be persistent. Challenge things. The people in this community, the people that are in this business for the right reasons, will have reasons for why they do what they do. And it might seem, and sometimes we need to be challenged on that too, right? Why did you do it this way? Well, that's a good question. Shit, I kind of took that for granted. That's the part of community, and every single piece of the community is important. You have the people with lots of experience. They're no more important than somebody who has no experience, right? We'd like to put the people on these tiers, right, of importance or whatever. That's not how it works. It's not how community works, right? What makes community special is everybody participating. So if you're new in this industry and you want answers to these questions, you want a mentor, find one. Keep being persistent. I was just telling you about this guy. He was persistent, right? And now he's found, I don't know if I'm a good mentor or not, but at least there's a mentor. I can help him cope and weave through things based on what I know and whatever. Now, the thing on a mentor too is, if a mentor is giving you advice or things that seem counter to what you've already learned in the community, think about that. Use discernment. Don't just go with it, because there's lots and lots of mentors. There's lots and lots of advice in this industry that's bullshit advice, right? So stick with, if something seems off, something seems right, question it. Feel empowered to do that. And if somebody makes you feel stupid for doing it, you're in the wrong community. You got the wrong mentor. Because a good mentor, a good community is going to build you up. They're going to make you feel good. They're going to empower you to go out there and serve the community. So, just keep at it, but also take the bull by the horns and run it. Don't let people stop you. So if you're waiting for somebody to just do it for you, that's not going to work. You got to take it. You got to run with it. And there's always going to be excuses. So fuck the excuses. Find somebody. Do it.
Yep. That's a great note to end on. Jordan, you have any other words of wisdom?
Yeah, I what I was going to say is that if you are new to this industry, if you're coming from just an IT, if you're in the IT world and you're wanting to dabble in the vCISO stuff, what I appreciated about the course, the CvCISO course, is that when you go through it, a lot of the stuff is common sense. The way that Evan and Meg have been putting the curriculum together, it's logical. And so it's stuff that in some ways there'll be things where it's like, well, of course that makes sense. Of course, risk, of course, managing risk is the whole point. And, so I think that no matter what your background is, the knowledge you have, the experience you have, you can bring to the table, and it will bring you an advantage in certain areas of vCISO work. But also you'll just open your mind, like both Dan and James have said. Like, it just kind of gives you this big, and Meg, this bigger tool set to bring if you want to stick in the IT world, but now you have this broader sense from the information security realm to bring to it. That's 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. All right. Well, that's a wrap for another episode of the CvCISO podcast. We truly appreciate you listeners, and thank you, Mark, for putting that question out there in the community and allowing us to have a lively conversation about it.
Yeah. I love you, Dan and James. You guys are awesome.
Back at you,
I
bro.
like you guys a lot too.
It's
Have
okay
a
to
good
say
day,
love. It's the
everybody.
agape kind of love, not the romantic kind.
Thanks for clarifying, Evan.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
What cologne do you wear?
Love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Yep.
Good one.
See ya.